little story time for today. I want to talk about helpers and drivers. Drivers and helpers. Some of the stuff that you go through, especially in this industry. I have a story about when I first started in the industry. They put me with this driver. He was an older guy. He probably was like around my age right now. And he did front end loader. He did commercial. And one of the things was when I went with him, he had this thing where, when you have a helper, you tend to do these things. At least back in the day they did. You would get fired immediately if you did this stuff now. But back then there was a thing called riding the forks. And training, back in the training back then was do not ride the forks. Because, if you get caught riding those forks, you could probably get in real serious trouble, because riding the forks, in hindsight, is dangerous. So what I'm saying is, when you operate a front end loader, sometimes when you dump overloaded cans, the trash falls on top of the roof. So in order to clean it off, sometimes what you would do back in the day, especially with the diesel trucks, was you would squeeze the forks like bottom channel, like you're trying to get bottom channels. You drop the forks down low. Your helper steps on the forks. You lift the forks up to the point where they can step on top of the truck. Yeah, the truck's running. Everything. It's all bad. And you go up there and you clean off the top. Sometimes if you have some stuff behind the truck, like behind they would close the lid, or crack the lid to where you hop on top of the lid. You clean up the stuff behind. This stuff was like absolutely dangerous. Well, I was working with this driver and he had a bunch of trash that he dumped on top of the roof. So he told me, "Hey man, go ride the forks." And I said, "Hey man, I'm not riding the forks." So we literally about to come to blows, man. He's like, "I'm a Marine and this," and I'm like, "Man, whatever, man. Whatever. I'm not doing it because I'm risking my job." They got me on probation. I have to make it past the 90 days, man. You asking me to risk my job? Think about what you're asking me. Later on, he's like, "Yeah, you know what? You was right. You was right. You was right, man. I was wrong." He was like, "Man, you really was gonna throw blows with me." I'm like, "Look, it's whatever, man. I'm just saying, I'm not risking my job." But I say all of that to say, if you're with somebody and they want you to do something unsafe, don't do it. They want you to do something unsafe that's going to risk your job, don't do it. Right? Just don't do it. There's been instances, I heard about this same driver that I got into it with. Right now, he's retired. No, he's either retired or on disability. And this driver, he got into it with another driver that I met out when I worked in the Valley. They had a rumble, man, on the route. They had a disagreement. They was going back and forth. And there was this tension that was just built up. There was some tension that was built up. You know, you work with a person. Sometimes it ain't always what they say, peaches and cream. No. Sometimes it's up there like that. You know, you got some tension, and you're working around a person for 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And I guess they had a back and forth. They got down, man. They got just, you know, they threw blows. But you got to think, man, this is a different world. This is a different time. This is like early 2000s. We talking about like before I even got in the industry, or late 90s. You know, this they were investigated about it. You know, one got lumps on his face, and dude got you know, swelling and stuff, and they're like, hey man, what happened? He's like, no, nothing. Then they asked the other guy's, nope, nothing. I had no problem with this guy. They just had to throw blows. But that type of stuff will get you fired nowadays, you know. That's a cardinal offense. That is a cardinal offense. Right? Any kind of like workplace violence, assault, physical assault, that's considered a cardinal offense. But back then, when men had a problem, that's how they settled it, right? And then when they knew, when they got asked about it, not to, you know, I guess, whatever, you know. It was just a different time. Not saying that it was better, but I'm just saying that was a time. Around that time, that was what happened. And there's been instances of drivers versus helper, man. Like, there was this guy when I first got into the industry. He was known for injuring people, specifically with the fingers, you know. He was injuring helpers with their fingers. This is what I be talking about. Like, you know, you got to be with somebody that's going to actually train you, or properly train you, that ain't got all these hang-ups. Right? And he was known for injuring helpers, specifically their fingers. Helpers getting their fingers smashed up, right? And the guy that he had was a really, really good helper, because one time when I first started, this guy was showing me, I guess, that guy's route. And dude, like, he was extremely, you know, like, man, this guy's really good. And he was telling me, man, I hate this guy, man. I don't want to work with this guy. So he had personally requested. He said, I believe at the time, this guy, he didn't have a license, so he had no other choice but to be a helper, right, or a scout. But he could not stand working with this guy. They got in many arguments, many fights. The whole driver-helper thing, man, is drama. And let's not even get started on temps. So let's just say you sign up for a route. You get a route, and it's two drivers. You say, well, I'm going to drive this much of the route. You drive this much of the route, right? Half and half usually, right? Okay, cool. So one day, the driver that you work with calls sick. So now they throw in a temp, which the temp can't drive. He doesn't know how to drive. He doesn't have a license. He's not authorized to drive. You know, you're pretty much just showing him the signals and how to work the packer, and that's about it. But he can't drive. So you're going to have to get out. You're going to have to work twice as hard. Sometimes these temps, they come from impoverished backgrounds, so they don't have any money. So you end up pretty much becoming like a babysitter almost. You buying their lunch, right? Like you got to tell them, hey man, look, pay attention. They on their cell phones, they texting, they talking on their cell phone, whatever. They not paying any mind to what's going on. They're not working at a pace where they taking it serious. They're asking you every hour. Every hour they're asking you, all right, so how much more we got left? Are we almost finished? You like, dude, are we finished? We haven't even picked up half of the route. And it's almost 1 o'clock. What do you mean? Like, we got to get the truck loaded first. Right? They're like, these are the type of things that you deal with when you work with helpers. And then let's just say you and the regular driver, y'all cool, but you're working fast. You worked fast the first load because you're like, man, I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to get off at 4:30. I want to get off around 4:30. The guy who takes over, he's like, when it's his turn to drive, he's driving slow. He's taking his time. He's like, nah, let's just take a break. Let's relax. He's trying to slow it down because he's trying, I don't know, for whatever reason, he don't want to go at the time that you need to go. So these are the type of things that happen when you work with like a 2-man route. It's just, you getting a phone call from your wife. You can't even pull over and talk to your wife without stepping out the truck, and you don't want nobody in your business. You don't be talking about anything personal with somebody in the truck, right? And it's just right, like it's just not what it's all cracked up to be. And then for another example is like, you know what? I feel like eating fish tacos today. Oh, well, no, I don't really want fish tacos. I want to eat, some complicated crap. Like, oh man, I'm on a carnivore diet, man. I want to eat only this, or I'm on a vegan diet, man. I want to eat this. And you're like, okay, so where do you want to stop, or where do you want to go? Oh man, you got one place in mind, this guy got another place in mind. It's just, these are the situations that you go through on a 2-man route. Largely when I went to the Valley, that's where I learned how to work by myself, because I had to. That was majority of the routes in the Valley was like one person. You get the truck and you go. Now there was some routes where they had two, super duper long push outs. Yeah, you had 2 people. But damn. Okay, so yeah. You would have situations like that. But those were just not like the normal case. So, working with a helper, man, it has its ups and downs, There was one scenario where one driver and one helper, they got into it. They got into it foul. They got into it really bad. And they had a real toxic relationship. They just stopped speaking to each other. So you imagine waking up in the morning and you just got this tense energy, negative energy inside the truck. Like, ugh. You know, this is the type of stuff that can happen. You know, and it's just that's why it's important to kind of communicate. Hey, look, man, this is what we're gonna do today. This is how we're gonna go do it. This is the signals. This is this and this is that. Because when you don't, you have situations where it just goes bad. So yeah, man, that's the story for today, man. If you're with somebody and you're on a 2-man route, man, hey, try to do what's right. Like, don't do anything that they, like the people that trained you, or whenever, you're a trainee and you just now coming into the company, and then somebody's like, hey, man, no, don't worry about it. I got it. No, just get out and back somebody if you have to, right? Like, get out the truck and back that person, because you don't want that person to get in an accident in a situation and say, well, you were backing up when this happened. Where was the helper at? Where was the helper at? You're going just before you started your career, right? So that's the message of the day, man. Or that's the story time for the day.